What's up? It is time for the monthly podcast of Hollywood and everything centered around it right now. Deep Space Cinema, episode 2, with my good friend Miguel here, coming to you on a Tuesday or whenever you're deciding to listen or watch. We have a few fun things to talk about today. All the Avengers Doomsday cast list announcements, round 1 of cast list announcements. We're going to talk about the Fiasco, I guess, is a way to describe everything going on with the talk and buzz around, or lack thereof, of Snow White. Both Miguel and I both saw Mickey 17 this month, so we're going to talk about that one. It was a fun movie. I saw Black Bag literally yesterday, recording this on a Sunday afternoon. That was a fun movie. If you haven't seen that, I recommend that. So we're going to get into everything going on in Hollywood right now. Overall, very interesting month for movies. I mean, we had the Oscars. It was the very beginning of the month. I guess we talk about that as well towards the end, but it's so long ago that it's not necessarily on everyone's front of everyone's mind. But you didn't get to the movies much this month, I know, Miguel. But before we talk through the Avengers cast list, just in a word, how would you describe the 5.5 hour live stream of the backs of chairs?
Honestly, I didn't even pay attention. Like I was just on our chat, on our Discord server chat,
Mhm.
and I was just like popping over there every couple hours to see who had been announced because
Right.
I, I I was not in the mood, nor did I have the time to just be watching a
Right.
5.5 hour stream of just
That they
chairs.
that they later dropped the in a 2-minute
Yeah,
video on YouTube, like right afterwards, making how do you think someone felt? Like they spent 5.5 hours watching. Like, I'm gonna do the due diligence here. I'm gonna watch for everyone and provide those live updates as we go through 5.5 hours. Just for as soon as that's done, Marv would be like, "Oh, and here it all is in 2.5 minutes," and just feel the life force sucked out of your soul.
I mean, yeah, it was even less than that. It was like less than 2 minutes. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could see myself just putting it in the background and on like on a second screen or something, and while I'm working or while I'm,
Mhm.
cooking, and just having that out there. But like 5.5 hours, that's way too long.
Right. So I'm gonna read through the list of every
Okay.
person that was announced and their presumed role given what they've been doing in Marvel. Okay. So Chris
Yep.
Hemsworth, Thor, Vanessa Kirby, Invisible Woman, Anthony Mackie, Captain America, Sebastian Stan, Bucky Barnes, Letitia Wright, Black Panther, Paul Rudd, Ant-Man, Wyatt Russell, U.S. Agent, Tina Huerta Mejia. Is that how you say his name?
Yep.
Okay, I'm not bad. Good props to me. Namor. Props to the white guy here for me on the to get that somewhat, not offensive when I said it. He's Namor. Ibn Moss. Is it Bakruk?
Backrack. Yep.
Bakruk. Okay. The Thing, which he's always gonna be. What's his name from Andor? The
The guy
guy
from the
every
bear.
time. What?
Oh, okay. I
No,
thought you were gonna
he's
say the guy
no,
from
he's
the
always
bear.
gonna be he's always gonna be the guy from Andor to me. That's like,
Yeah.
let's go. I put that little video out every single time something cool happens in Star Wars. Let's go. Simu Liu, Shang-Chi, Florence Pugh, Yelena. I'm doing terrible on names so far. Kelsey Grammer is going to be Beast. Louis Pullman is Sentry. Danny Ramirez, Falcon. Joseph Quinn, Human Torch. David Harbour, Red Guardian. Winston Duke, M'Baku. Hannah John Kamen, Ghost. Tom Hiddleston, Loki. Patrick Stewart, Professor X. Sorry, Sir Patrick Stewart, the man, the god himself. Patrick Stewart, Professor X. Sir Ian McKellen, the GOAT, Magneto. Surprised that Gandalf's not making his way into the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point.
Oh, we don't know yet.
Alan Cumming, Nightcrawler, Rebecca Romijn, Mystique, James Marsden, Cyclops, Channing Tatum as Gambit, Pedro Pascal, Mr. Fantastic, and Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom. Were there any that stood out to you when you saw the list that you doesn't have to be a positive thing. It can be, like really, we're going here, or it could be a positive, like, oh my goodness, I'm excited to see this person.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest takeaway was because I I, I thought at first there were a bunch more X-Men than there were, so I thought like maybe half the cast were X-Men, which I was very disappointed by, because it's not even like X-Men from like 10 years ago. It's like X-Men from 20 years ago, which is yeah the movies that Kevin Feige produced, but it's not necessarily the movies that someone who went to see Captain America last month has seen recently or even
Mhm.
ever. So I think there's a huge disconnect there, and I think that this whole thing about nostalgia and bringing back characters and actors from the past, like this is going to be this is going to blow up in their faces, I think, if they keep going back to this over and over again. So yeah, if they keep Chris Hemsworth or Florence Pugh around, then yeah, they can actually have a hit in their hands. But if they're gonna build their entire movie around Patrick Stewart and whoever Rebecca
You,
playing
I gave
Mystique.
you, I
Uh,
gave you 30 names, and your first one that you had to bring up with was Patrick Stewart in a negative way. Like that's there. Was that a personal attack? Are you
no,
trying
I
are
mean,
you trying to have a grind out like
okay,
slugfest right?
let's put it this way:
The gloves can come off, Miguel.
if you're gonna center your movie around Kelsey Grammer, then yeah, you probably don't have a hit on your hands.
Hey,
I'm
Kelsey
sorry.
Grammer is the legend, the icon.
Uh, I'm sure in some English village he is, but not necessarily in anywhere else.
That voice though, Fraser. We're talking about Fraser Crane, the Beast. So all that being said, I agree with you that the fact that there were 30 names announced here, and we know that there are several others that are going to be in this movie that were not announced here, like which means they're probably going to have another one of these type of videos at some point. They even alluded to that, just as much as alluded
Yeah,
to that,
this is
because they're
half the
gonna.
cast.
And at that point, how are they going to realistically convince people that what they're doing with Avengers Doomsday is telling a good story set in this universe if you're having 60 quote unquote stars, 60 people in this movie playing a role, and we haven't seen some of these people, like you said, in 20 years, that only a handful of the people involved in these movies are relevant MCU characters and the current state of things, because they haven't really had, I would say, like a major hit in terms of popularity in the MCU for a while, movie wise, since Spider-Man No Way Home, probably. And we didn't see Tom
But
Holland on this
Deadpool
list.
kind of counts.
Okay, yes, but again, I guess we might see Deadpool, and well, I'm sure we'll see Hugh Jackman in this movie, but at the same time, with the whole multiverse, everything, it just feels like this is going to be, like you said, a giant cesspool of nostalgia baiting with some one liners from some characters that I've seen before in something else, or maybe haven't seen before, or haven't seen in a very long time. And I'm supposed to laugh and poke the person next to me and say, remember when he said something like that in X-Men 2 in 2001 or something like that.
Yeah,
And rather than this cast seems like this cast is going to be larger than In-Games was, and In-Game was the culmination event of incredible decade run from Marvel, and we're gonna go bigger than that for this one, but it doesn't feel like there's any sort of
stakes.
momentum or stakes that have been built up into this. So it's just going to be kind of like, oh, all right, yeah, there's that person. And I just don't know, like you said, this might blow up in their faces. I just don't know how they're wanting to build. Like, how is this something that they're going to build off of? Because this is like one of those, it doesn't get bigger than this movies. Yeah, this is supposed to, in a sense, be a launching pad while also serving as a conclusion to a chapter that feels like it, to a book that feels like we didn't really get much out of.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think that the way Fag is viewing this is that this is if Endgame was the conclusion to his MCU, this is the conclusion to his time at Marvel. So I think he's gonna step down after that. He will. He's probably working now on X-Men and whatever, but I don't think he's going to stay around
Hmm.
after Secret
Interesting.
Wars to produce all of those movies, or at least not in a hands-on manner. Like he may
Hmm.
be getting a credit or something, but not necessarily be running Marvel Studios. So I think this is he's viewing this as the culmination of his entire run at Marvel.
Hmm.
And I realized that after all I said about the X-Men being relevant in this movie, but not necessarily in society, like that goes against the last year's Deadpool, which was basically marketed around being a giant nostalgia-based thing about the old Fox movies, and that worked. And yet you also had the whole Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman
Hmm.
thing, but to their credit, that worked, and that was a huge success. So perhaps I am underestimating the hunger that there is out there for that kind of content. At the same time, and even more to that credit, Doctor Strange 2 almost grossed $1 billion. And that was also marketed around, Patrick Stewart, and it was around all of these cameos.
Hmm.
And yes, that was like 3 years ago, and it's gonna be like 4 to 5 years before Doomsday. But still, that's like something to consider. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much. I do think that they are holding a lot of names for a couple of reasons. One, they didn't want to announce the full cast yet. I don't
Hmm.
think that all of these roles are going to have the same level of importance.
No,
I
of
don't
course
think
not.
Kelsey Grammer is going to have the same number of lines as Chris Hemsworth. At the same time, I think they're holding names for a couple of reasons. One, just for practical reasons, so that they don't have to announce all of them now. And second, because some of those contracts may not be locked in yet. So they may have, like, they probably know that uh, they probably know whether Tom Holland or not is going to be there or not. But
Hmm.
maybe they don't know about Chris Pratt yet, or maybe they don't know about, Tobey Maguire, or they don't know
Right.
about uh, maybe even Ryan Reynolds, which I assume he's going to be there, but who knows?
Hmm.
And some of those actors who have like much bigger careers than this and maybe have much tighter schedules, I think that this movie is going to be a giant headache for scheduling. And I think they're going to be shooting this movie for the next year or so. Not
Hmm.
necessarily like in principal photography, but in reshoots and pickups and so on. I think they're going to be on the set for this movie for a very long time.
Which leads me to ask, how have they not announced that this movie's not coming out next May yet?
Um,
Because there's no way if
yeah,
they're announcing the cast, they have another cast announcement. This is going to be a long project. There's no way this comes out at the end of May next year. Like this has to at the earliest. I
beginning
feel
of
like
May
is
actually.
or okay, yeah. Mandalorian Grogu is the end of May, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So at the earliest, I'm thinking December of next year or May of 2027.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this a bunch of times. I do think that they're going to move, but they keep making us believe that they are not. So who knows? Maybe they're crazy enough to actually pull this off and have VFX houses like run 24 hours a day, um, which I guess wouldn't surprise me. Like this is Marvel after all; they're like known for this kind of behavior, but.
Mhm.
Um, it's possible that they're holding some sort of announcement for maybe CinemaCon, which is happening in a couple days, or most likely for Comic Con.
Right. When's San Diego
At the
Comic-Con?
same
Is
time,
that July?
that's July, but at the same time, that's not the kind of announcement that you want at Comic Con. That's the kind of announcement you send out on a press release on a Friday
On
afternoon,
Friday
just so nobody
afternoon and
notices. Yeah,
mhm.
because at Comic Con you're gonna have a huge booing crowd. Like
Right.
that's not the
Yeah.
sort of thing you want. But I don't know. Like if we don't hear something in the next 2 months, I think they're gonna keep that. Uh,
With Wild.
I don't know. uh, it is
What's the
wild
and
to
then the second
yeah.
question is, what is the budget ultimately going to be for this? Like, the return on investment on this is going to have to be astronomical to justify everything that they're going to be pumping into this, especially if they're trying to pump this movie out in May in just a year. So, like, the money they're gonna have to do to make that happen alone, and that's not even getting into every single one of these names on this list command varying degrees, but a lot of them are very high, dollar amounts to get them to come and be flexible even on how they're going to shoot this.
Yeah, I think that you're talking about Avatar budgets here or something like
Hmm.
that. Like you're talking if this thing grosses less than 1.5 billion at globally, you're at a loss here because I mean RDJ himself is taking 50 million off the budget, like just
Hmm.
him alone, and that's I think that's his salary, but he may have brought some requirements with him, like some personal security or some trailer stuff that maybe that's
Hmm.
like bring it up to like 60 per movie, and not to mention the Russos who probably are not coming in cheap after
Hmm.
delivering 5 billion for them in the past two Avengers movies, and basically Marvel being desperate for having them back. So I
You could
imagine
also
that
say the Russos might be desperate for that paycheck again after yet another failed movie they came out with,
yes,
Electric
but they
State
signed
on
on
Netflix.
a year ago.
Oh, yes, yes, fair enough. They
Yeah,
might well, they might be really grateful then that they signed on for for that
that's for
Avengers
sure.
movie.
That's for sure. That's for sure. But I don't know, like if I'm the Russos' agent, I'm like, listen, the last three times these guys worked for you, you grossed, you know,
Mhm,
your lowest grosser was Captain America Civil War, which was like 1.3 or something like that, or
mhm,
1.2 billion globally, which is nothing to sneeze at.
mhm.
And so I can't imagine they're, making less than 15 to 20 million. And then you have, people like Florence Pugh or Chris Hemsworth or, these people who must not come in cheap. So I imagine that just in salaries alone, you're like maybe 120, 150 million
Yeah, I
uh,
don't know, that might even be more,
easily.
honestly,
Possibly, yes, because we don't
given
even
the
know
next
the end of it.
round.
Yeah.
Mhm, yeah. Just looking at these people right here and then knowing what's coming out next. So my next question is this is a bit of a joke for you, but how is
Okay.
Ian McKellen gonna have time to put on his wizard cloak and staff to go film the hunt for Gollum if he's busy gallivanting around as Magneto for the next year? How's he going to have
I mean,
time
I
to
know
give
this is
us
a
the Lord of the
joke.
Rings film of the century
I know this is a joke, but I don't think that the Hunt for Gollum is shooting anytime soon.
ever?
So I think, I mean, like even uh, hoping for never. I would say I think they pushed. Didn't they push this like for a full year?
I don't
Like
remember. I don't remember. They might have.
I think they pushed this to 2027. So I don't think they're gonna be shooting uh, for the
Probably.
next 12 months.
They're reevaluating some things.
I hope so. I surely hope so. But yeah, because I don't know the size of his role here either, to
Mhm.
be honest. Because
Again, a lot of these people I think are going to have just a couple of minutes of screen time. They're going to be on for a couple minutes.
yeah,
They're going to die in a funny, tragic way or point them in the right direction or whoever them is.
yeah.
And we'll see you later. That's what most of it's going to be. But
I mean, you mentioned this earlier, but my other takeaway was like, how long are these credits gonna be? Because I remember sitting in the theater for Endgame, and it was like this it was like 3 to 4 minutes of just names with pictures, even before like the full credits rolled,
right.
um, which had like Natalie Portman and Robert Bradford and like these people who had like less than 2 minutes of screen time, but that still got a
Hmm.
credit. And how long is that going to be now? It's,
Hmm.
wow.
It's we'll have to time that. It'd be interesting. But overall, we'll see. I thought it was interesting that so many Thunderbolts characters were announced in this
All of them, I
before
think.
the movie. Was it all of them? I don't. I don't know if it was
I
all
mean, I
of them.
didn't count, but
Most
I
of them.
saw someone count them, and I think it was at least all of them. They haven't announced Harrison Ford yet, actually, which is interesting because he's not supposed to be in Thunderbolts. So we'll see. Okay.
So I thought that was interesting. Just saying, hey, everyone that's in Thunderbolts that's on here, yeah, there you go. They're gonna make it out alive, as it would seem from that movie, which I thought was interesting because that movie comes out next in May. So
Yeah.
announcing some of these right now felt like odd timing. So, any other
I
final
mean,
thoughts on this before we
there's
wrap
a,
it up?
there's another twist to that, which is like comes if Thunderbolts because these characters are gonna be important for the next Avengers movie, which could be the case. Like that's their angle.
Mhm. I
I don't
guess,
know.
but at the same time, if someone looked at this list or they knew who was going to be in the next Avengers movie just based off of word on the street, do you think they would take you seriously, like Marvel seriously, if they said, "Come to see Thunderbolts because all these characters are going to be really important in Avengers Doomsday," when none of these, outside of Bucky Barnes, none of these characters feel like people that are going to be taking on a lead role necessarily in or a major role in an Avengers movie. It's
I don't know.
possible.
I don't know.
It's
Because at the
possible.
same time, you have the multiverse, so they may as well die, and they can have them back anyways.
That's true. There are no rules. There are no rules
No,
anymore.
not anymore.
So wrapping up Marvel stuff, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next few months. Will they keep the date? When will they announce the rest of the cast? Because there's a bunch of big stars that were not on
I
this that we
imagine it's
know are
gonna
going
be
to be in
like
this.
the end of production. So this was the first day, possibly
Mhm.
last day will be like the second round of casting.
Right. Mhm. So you did not go see Snow White this month. Am I correct?
No, I am older than 13 years old.
Okay, you can be older than 13 years old and then simply want to go
I'm
to the
kidding. I'm
theater.
kidding. I
No, I'm gonna
honestly,
I'm gonna play out.
honestly, I was. I don't think I was tempted like over the past few weeks, but I was very intrigued a few months ago by Rachel Zegler. So
Mhm.
uh, had I found the time and the energy, I probably would have been. But uh,
It's
I did
like
not find either.
I I will always go see something she's in if I know she's singing for sure. Like
Yeah.
100% she's singing in the role because she's phenomenal. And then in general, I am a big fan. So what I want to say about this though that I think is interesting is yet again, which I feel like this happens every time any sort of big budget movie comes out nowadays. There's just so much nonsense that's out there when talking about a lot of these movies that's not in good faith at all. Like a lot of the people that just seeing a lot of quotes or posts on social media, reviews that just absolutely tear this movie to shreds, but specifically like they'll capture, one image that maybe doesn't look great from the movie or one scene, and they'll completely put it, out of context. Like if you take a
Yeah.
clip of so many things, and just drop 7 seconds in, you're going to be like, what's going on here? Or, that doesn't look great. But within the context of the entire thing, it makes a lot of sense. And there's a level of people, I think, that are just really going after Ziegler's character and her in general. And I don't think these people are will qualify as good faith Snow White purists that are
Yeah.
truly just trying to protect the legacy of their favorite Disney princess. Yeah, like Joe Schmo, 45-year-old straight dude, is absolutely obsessed with caretaking and making sure the legacy of Snow White is preserved for the children of tomorrow. Now, this
Sounds
movie,
like a fun person.
yeah, this this movie does it's not going to be a timeless one by any stretch of the imagination. But I think it was perfectly fine for, the target audience that they were trying to reach. When Janelle and I went to go see this movie, there was tons of kids and their families that were there. And how this is anecdotally speaking, but how I a lot of times judge like the success of some of these movies is do some of the students that I teach, do they talk about it at all? Do they go see it at all? Because they're, anywhere from 11 to 14 kids that would probably go see something like this. I heard some of them talking about it. They like Rachel Ziegler. They listened to it. There were a ton of like elementary age kids and their families in the theater. And anytime you're in the theater with a bunch of kids watching like a kid movie like that, and you hear the kids making comments or laughing at the jokes or smiling, you see them, some of them smiling, or some of them like singing along to a few things. Like to me, that does means the movie's doing its job. And that was our theater experience. I'm not saying that's a universal experience, but I think it does its job. Now, with that being said, a couple of notes. One, Gal Gadot is terrible in this movie. Like
Yeah,
absolutely miscast this. I was sitting with Janelle afterwards, and I'm like, I know that her schedule is probably super busy, and she's already doing other things for like with Marvel and Disney. But I was thinking of someone like Catherine Hahn would have absolutely eaten up that role. Or just
I
I was
mean,
trying to think of other people that I would have like immediately gravitated towards for a role like that before stoic
I,
Gal
I,
Gadot.
I don't think this is an. I mean, this is technically a miscast, and I've not seen the movie, of course, but
Mhm.
from what people are saying, this would technically be a miscast, but at the same time, I don't think that they cast her in the role because of her acting abilities. Right? They cast her
Mhm.
in the role because of her supposed box office draw,
Right.
which Rachel Zegler at the time of making the movie was not. Perhaps uh, had they known how big she would become,
Mhm.
uh, they might have cast someone else in that role.
Mhm. That's fair.
And yeah, I do think that they have regretted that because the tables have turned since then. Because Gal Gadot
Mhm.
is no longer anything, pretty much any holds any relevance right now, and I think Rachel holds a lot more. So
Mhm.
I think they probably would have recast the role now if they could, but they
Mhm.
made the movie a year and a half ago. So
Mhm. And she's not very. I. There were a few times I don't like laughing at something like out of like crassly or anything in a movie, but there were a few times when her one like her one number in the movie. It and when she's trying to like give the cold the expression, she's just not I'm not I mean, I sitting back now thinking about the when I saw Wonder Woman and how I thought, "Oh my gosh, Gal Gadot is incredible." The more I sit back and think about everything that's come since, I'm like, Chris Pine carried that movie so hard.
yeah,
Given that every movie I've seen Gal Gadot in, I am like, there's just nothing, there's nothing there. And this was almost the culmination event of there's nothing there.
yeah.
And I just couldn't help but laugh during a few of those numbers. And if you ever find, like you said, the time and energy to put it on for an hour and a half, I think
I
you'd
do think
be
I will watch it
feeling
though.
similarly.
Like whenever it comes out on Disney Plus, I think I will watch it. I still have
Mhm.
to see Moana, which I also didn't have the time or energy to go see in the movies, but I will go see that. Or will watch it from like my couch on Disney Plus at some
I
point.
haven't seen
Same
Moana
for
2 as
Mufasa.
well. Let me ask
Yeah.
our resident Moana expert, Janelle. Janelle, hey, hey, headphones. I'm gonna ask her something real quick. I'll relay it over here, Janelle. In a like real quick, just give me a quote of Are you still she's Moana's her favorite movie. Are you still interested in seeing Moana 2 even though you did not go see it in theaters? Like what's the future and why? See, she said that she's not really interested in watching it because she didn't wanted to lessen how
Garbage. Yeah.
much she loved the first one, which I think is an interesting point. Not to, I'm going to talk about her now while she's maybe over there, but and she may not like what I have to say, so we'll see. I think that Janelle's thoughts there are almost like a good microcosm of where the general like moviegoer is at right now, where we were looking to go see Moana 2. Like that was a movie that we were interested in seeing when we heard it was announced. And then there was like all of the little things that come out before, because everyone is so online now and so much of this generates online where, oh, it's, actually just a TV series that was dropped into a movie hastily because they needed to make, some extra money. Oh, you know, this movie is not getting very good reviews right now from the early, screeners and focus groups that have gone to go see it. And therefore, now, because we live in the day and age of social media, so much of this is in front of us. 15 years ago, I wouldn't have known any of that. And I probably, would just go see the movie on its own merit because it's Moana 2. But now I almost feel like, oh, am I going to waste my time with that? And I think the same thing happens here with Snow White, where you have all of the political ramifications going on with the two, lead, stars in this movie. There are all of the different reshoots, all of the different bad press that's coming out, to where people are, 15, like I said, 15 years ago, you might not be aware of 90% of what's going on behind the scenes or out there with this movie. But now we're so hyper aware of every little thing that it leads to this animosity and tension for some of these movies that really shouldn't be there a lot of times. Like for like Moana 2, like we should just go see it and see what happens. And that's just, I think, a really interesting place where movies are at right now. And I just wonder how, like, what the future of movies like this are whenever they start getting some of these, like the snow, it seems like it's a snowball effect where the snowball like starts building, and it's like, how do you stop that? Because Star Wars, even, this is Star Wars Tuesday, Star Wars felt some of this with Solo, when with some of the bad things that were going on. Obviously, they sandwiched that right after Infinity War, and then there was everything with The Last Jedi. But a lot of people would have argued that if you did a better job marketing that movie, or you had gotten that thing right from the start, then you would have been just fine. So I would like to hear, in a sense, your thoughts on like that snowball effect that does seem to happen more so nowadays than ever before, because of how hyper aware we are.
I mean, I think all of that um, is true to an extent. At the same time, Moana 2 made $1 billion worldwide. And at the
Mhm.
same time, Moana 2 was targeted towards kids, and kids do not care about that kind of stuff because they want to see Moana.
Mhm.
So I don't think that holds true in this specific context. And I think that there's one thing that remains king over all the rest, which is the movie good? If the movie is not good, then word of mouth is going to kill it once and for all, if it hadn't already. And but if the movie, sorry, well, I don't even know what I said. I meant if the movie is not good. So if the movie is good, I think word of mouth is going to carry it, and I
Mhm.
think um, there's a good chance that it will perform in some capacity. Um, so yeah, I don't think that in this specific case um,
Mhm.
it applies that logic. Um, but I can see cases where it
Mhm.
does. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. It's just interesting. I don't even want to get into like the political stuff of this movie. I think is a big part of it. Everything with that too, just with these two particular individuals being at the
Oh,
forefront
you
of
you,
that.
you mean back with Snow White?
With Snow, yeah, I'm back. Yeah, back with Snow White too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one last thing about Moana, because there was one more thing that didn't really attract me to it, which was Lin-Manuel Miranda not being back.
Right. Hmm.
That was also a big factor, but
When I told
whatever.
Janelle that he wasn't back and doing this, I mean, I think that was a big. I think that was a big turnoff
Yeah.
for us
Um,
going to see it. But obviously, kids, I mean, that movie made a bajillion, and it was the most watched thing, in minutes.
yeah.
But I don't think we're going to be sitting here, years from now. I don't think that movie is going to be one of the timeless projects that exists, because I don't think it's going to even hold up close long term to the first one.
No, possibly. I think we may think about it in the same way we think about Frozen 2. Do you even remember Frozen 2 came out? Because I haven't seen Frozen 2. I don't even
I saw
remember.
Frozen 2. I fell asleep, and then
Okay,
I fell
because
asleep.
but that movie was
My
huge.
I
Like,
watched it on an airplane though, so it might have
okay,
been like not a good example of a movie watching experience. But I remember watching it. but I wasn't I wasn't say I was enthralled enough to go back. I will say like the Into the Unknown or whatever that song is. I like that song. Like I'll listen to that when it comes on. Now that you mentioned, I might go back. Maybe that'll be my homework for this month. Outside of going to the actual movies, I will watch Frozen 2 and give you my thoughts next month. Just for the heck of
Okay. Okay. Um, Final thoughts on Snow White? Because I will say it. I don't think it
it. Hmm.
looks like visually attractive. I think
Hmm.
the color palette is visually attractive. So at least for that,
Hmm.
um,
It is.
seems interesting to me. Now,
If you
one
if
last
you
question
are
though.
yeah,
What do you think about the what dwarves?
I there's a whole bunch of I get that they're like they don't look super. I guess the word is realistic. I guess is the word. People are like, oh my gosh, these fake things. But I'm like, they're dwarves. They're dwarves from an animated movie. I don't need them to be these real life. I'm not looking for Gimli, son of Gloin, to run out there. And it's a different universe. It's a different everything. I think with the color palette of this movie and how whimsical everything feels, and there's a certain level of everything is a little magical, and they don't get into some of that enough, but I think they should have like dived a little bit more into that. I think it works fine. Like I think that wasn't anything I walked away from that movie going, this didn't work. To me, that one was one of the few things I actually enjoyed about it was like the relationships with the dwarves and how they interacted with each other. Like I could have watched more of that. And the main problems I had with this movie was mostly on the antagonist side of things.
Okay, because I do have a personal crusade against this because I remember, like, I acknowledge that probably no one will remember, but I remember like a couple of years ago when they were starting to make this movie and Peter
Hmm.
Dinklage came out and started bashing on this Snow White remake because of the
Right.
dwarves,
Hmm.
and which I always found like a bit of a head scratcher. And then Disney came out and said, "We're not doing dwarves. We're doing some magical creatures." They said this in like an unofficial statement. Like we're doing something different that is not going to be dwarves. And then they do dwarves, which is what happened there, first of all.
Hmm.
And second of all, if you were gonna do dwarves, why didn't you cast some real dwarves? Like Peter
Hmm.
Dinklage was born to play Grumpy.
Yes.
So why didn't you make this movie from like the very beginning with that
Hmm.
community in mind
Right.
and casting 7 actors in those roles who are
Hmm.
actual little people and to actually bring some
Hmm.
spotlight to them? Because they went back and
From
forth. They
that
said,
from that standpoint, 100% agree. And like Peter Dinklage, yes, born to play Grumpy, and you could have easily done that. I don't know if it was. I almost said I don't know if it was a cost cutting measure because I'm sure it was really expensive to do the VFX and everything for the dwarves in general.
no,
So
it's more I mean,
it's probably
if
way
you
more
have like
expensive.
7 actors there, the only one you're really paying is Peter Dinklage because the other
Mm,
6 are unknowns, and you can just
mm,
cast unknowns, and probably you're gonna be launching some careers,
mm,
and you're gonna be championed by that. Like I never understood that from a PR point of view. Like it's so easy,
mm.
but nobody remembers that Disney statement anymore because I haven't
Hmm.
seen it
That's
anywhere.
a
But
good point.
yeah,
I forgot about that. No, that makes a lot of sense. I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. I wish there's a lot of like you mentioned we mentioned with Gal Gadot earlier too. Like there's a lot of things I think with this movie that they regret making certain decisions and having to be stuck with some of them and not pivoting completely. I think if they were doing this all over again, I think they would have a completely different like, cast on their hands. I think that everything would look entirely different if they were doing
yeah,
this now. But hindsight 2020 on that one. So you saw Mickey 17 as
I
well.
did.
Moving to this, we both, I believe, enjoyed this movie. I don't think either one of us loved this
No,
movie. I think both of us left kind of saying that we wish that they had honed in on a few more characters, didn't need to spend so much time with certain ones. And I think the big question that we all left was, what was this really about? Like, what was like the message maybe trying to the clear message being that they were trying to convey in this, because it felt like there were different times where there was different, clear messages trying to come through, like a clear voice for the film. And but it got lost because now we're moving on to this story. Where are you with Mickey 17? Because it's been about
Um,
3 weeks since you saw it
I
now.
mean, I wouldn't entirely agree with. I mean, I do think that first of all, it was like very on the nose parody of Trump, like the Mark Ruffalo character especially,
Hmm.
and it was mostly about colonialism. I think
Hmm.
that was the main uh, point. And
Definitely.
yes, Bong Joon-ho has said that this is not Trump. These are like South Korean political figures, and possibly that was the inspiration at some point. But there's no way Mark Ruffalo takes on that role and does not think of Trump. Like maybe that
Right.
wasn't the director's vision when he was writing the movie, but there's no way
Just
like
well, just in
Ruffalo.
maybe that was the director's vision for the movie, but Mark Ruffalo definitely said, "I'm gonna watch some Trump footage and I'm going to
I
emulate
mean,
that." Like, it was spot
like
on.
he is one of the biggest voices, anti-Trump
Mhm,
voices in
mhm,
Hollywood. So there's no way he didn't do that. So yes, I do think that it was about colonialism. I do think that
right,
the huge, hugely colorful color palette that Snow White used could have been useful in Mickey 17 because that movie very was very attractive to look at. I
right,
don't think. I mean,
mhm,
of course, like uh, I think that the Snow White cinematography was like over color corrected.
mhm,
Uh, and Mickey 17 was going for a particular tone and a particular set of colors, but I don't think that that was the best they could have done. I'm not saying yet, this should have looked like
right,
green and yellow like Snow White does, but
mhm.
and well, first of all, Pattinson's voice was like ridiculous. I'm sorry that was taking me out of the movie.
You couldn't do Mickey 17's voice?
No, I could not. Uh, and and one final thing is that although I did connect to it at the end, I do think that the first hour was dragged a lot. I think that that was very, very slow and
Mhm,
uh, it took me out sometimes. I don't think
mhm.
that was polished. Uh,
Once Mickey 18 comes into the
yeah,
picture, the movie really ramps up, but they
yeah,
do a lot of building up to that point that for it to some degree could have been you could have waited
trimmed
on
down.
that,
Yeah,
trimmed down a little bit, because there was a level of, I mean, what was I'm forgetting uh Steven like Yoon's like character, his best friend, or quote unquote his best friend, that is like the worst friend you could ever have. His whole storyline, I felt, was taking up a big chunk of time, but really was inconsequential to a lot of what was going on, like the main part of the film, which was about, eradicating the species on this planet because they want to create their own environment. And like we said, like with colonialism. And that whole arc with his character was taking up 25 to 30 minutes of the movie, because a lot of that was the buildup of how he got on the ship. And I feel like maybe we could have trimmed that down for sure. I want to know, what did you think about Naomi Aki? Because I thought this was like the best performance I think I've ever
yeah.
seen from her. I thought she was fantastic.
I mean, as someone who last saw her in the Whitney Houston biopic, which I absolutely hated, I thought she was the best part of the movie. I think.
Mhm. I loved watching the way she would interact with both like 18 and 17,
Yeah,
and have that, and be able to play off of the both of those characters' tones, because you have 17 who's, we can all just get along. That's my best Mickey 17 voice, by the way. I don't know. I've been working on it all month for you. And then you have 18 who says, someone crosses me once, I'm just gonna start shooting. Like I'm
yeah,
gonna kill them. And her being able to to play off like the playful side there of 17, or sorry, with 18, with getting high on the drugs and everything like that, but then be like really serious, more gentle when 17 was really fun. What did you think about the creatures that they had in this that were like a mix of mammoth
Yeah,
and oh not possums, armadillos, I guess is a good way of saying it. Like woolly mammoth armadillos, like the giant one, and then the little one would be just more of like a furry armadillo.
I mean, I don't think I have strong thoughts other than I appreciate that they were trying something different.
Hmm. That's I think the general
Yeah.
consensus I've seen. Who was I'm blanking. It's been a while since I've seen this, but this what's the deal with? I've never seen a character in any movie ever obsess over sauce the way that Mark Ruffalo's wife.
Tony Collette.
Yes, obsessed with the sauce in this movie. That was like one part of the story that I could not. So much of this movie was weird and wanted to be weird, and I appreciate movies that are just willing to be weird. That was though a level of weirdness I couldn't even. I left going like, what the hell was that about? Like with the sauce, like I couldn't even. The first couple of times that they made that joke or she was on that sauce kick, I was like, okay, that's funny. They went back to that well a dozen times. Even at the very end of the movie when he's having his little nightmare essentially and needs the sauce. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was. Um, I didn't. Uh, I didn't really get anything out of her character either, to be honest.
Mhm.
Other than that, those couple of funny
Right.
moments. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think that the movie was good. Wasn't great. Could have been great. I think
Mhm.
the the whole premise and the way the story was told, I think, left something on the table that could
Mhm.
have been improved.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I certainly didn't regret going to see it. So
Same. I wish that we had gotten a little bit more into the whole philosophical debate over, the human like cloning and everything to do with we're
okay,
printing copies of people,
okay,
but each person, as we saw with 17, 18, are very like they were different. They're very clearly like different. And it reminded me of in Star Trek, there's a species called the Trill, and essentially they have these like symbiotic like beings that bond with like a host, and when the host dies they transfer the symbiote into like a new host. And there was an episode where a crime committed by the last host, like they had like murdered someone or were responsible for someone dying, and someone came back to claim like the death penalty for the new host because they were the ones like the symbiote and the person who had last said it killed them. But the argument they had like the whole trial where, well, this is now a different person. Now their personality is different. They have a different soul. And I wish they had maybe had a little bit more of that be integral to the story. They hinted at that a lot of times of he's just a expendable. This is what he's supposed to do. Like we're just gonna kill him. They went there a little bit, but I would love to see a little bit more of how 17 and 18, these are two unique beings. There are two independent, functioners. They each have a soul of their own, even though they are, same memories, same printout of the same person. I kind of wish that they would have gone into that a little bit more instead of some of the little side quests they went on, because there is something to be said. I would love to have more, even like another story in some fashion that goes into that a little bit, because I think they kept it mostly like surface level baseline, like is this wrong, is this bad, that's the debate, and then we moved on.
I mean, I don't think that was really the point. I don't think that was what they were going for with that particular
Right.
storyline. I think that they were mostly aiming at the painting this expendable character as an archetype of a working
Mhm.
man.
Mhm.
And I think that it was just how regular people are just expendable and
Mhm.
replaceable,
Mhm.
replaceable, and just you don't really care that one
Right.
has a soul different than the other. They all look the same.
Hmm.
I think that was mostly the point with that. I don't think that the movie was trying to do something, some sort of soul exploring,
Hmm.
uh, thing, or some philosophical debate
Hmm.
of whether we should clone humans. And I
Hmm.
don't think that was really the point. It was mostly about uh, workforce and colonialism and
Hmm.
big corporations not caring about the little guy and so on
Hmm.
and so forth.
I agree, not the point of the movie, but I felt like we spent so much time in the movie kind of going different directions that weren't even for, like you said, like the main part of the movie about like the colonialism, that it could have left more room for that particular element, which like it was just more of those, like I personally, like I love, that's just the nerdy, like even Star Trek side of me coming out. Like I want to get into that a little bit more, and even I guess from a like a Star Wars perspective too, given how important, like we spent 7 seasons with clones and the Clone Wars, and how all the clones are unique beings. Like there is a level of that, I guess, too, that we could have dived into. Are there any other thoughts on Mickey 17 before we get into the last 10 minutes here?
No, I don't think so. I think n- just from a financial point of view, I'm wondering what they're thinking about at Warner Brothers.
Hmm.
Was this because I don't think this was worth it for them, but uh, I would like to see to know what they're thinking about this.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Hmm.
nothing more to add.
Hmm. Well, I saw Black Bag, which was a really fun
Okay.
movie that just came out. I'm curious, do you know anything about that movie, or is it on your radar? I saw it yesterday. I'm curious.
I know of the movie. I don't know much about the movie.
Okay. So essentially you have Michael Fassbender and Kate Blanchett. They
Yeah,
are two
the Steven
spot yeah.
Soderbergh movie. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, they're two spies and they're married. And the movie starts with Michael's character, his character George gets a list of names from Gustav Skarsgård. These are like 5 names, and one of these people is a traitor for the organization, and one of the names is his wife. And George is like a super analytical. You don't really see his personality at all into the latter half of the film. You start to see it when he's trying to uncover the mystery a little bit more, and the stakes are starting to heat up, and his wife is on that list, and he's trying to figure out, you know did my wife actually do this. And there's some really good uh, drama in here. It's not an action movie, and there's no action. It's very much a dialogue driven spy drama, like a who did it, and really focuses on like the character interactions specifically, rather than, this isn't some chase through London or some chase through a city. But it was fast paced at the same time, because I mean it's 90 minutes and you're out, and it tells a very quick, clean story. But there's one like particular part that I love where George is spying. He's spying on his wife, and one of the characters is like, "How do you two you?" She was like, "How do you two do it? Like, I can't date outside of the organization because no one understands." And then everyone in the organization, they're always lying to us. Everyone, we're professional liars. How do you guys do it? And and he, at that point, you finally see some of his personality come out. He's like, "You asked how I do it. This is how you do it." She knows I spy on her. She's spying on me. We expect that of each other. And we both know that we will do anything possible to cover up for the other person. I will kill for this person. I will lie for this person. It doesn't matter. He's like, "Now log into the effing code or something." And the girl is telling, she's like, "That was so hot." Yes, absolutely. Like, just logs in. So it's like a funny movie, and it's very serious. I mean, you're dealing with a traitor in the mix. There's murder going on, but it's very lighthearted the whole time. You're just kind of smiling and enjoying where it goes. So this isn't one where you're going to be thinking about months later. It's not, you're gonna leave the theater and your mind's just gonna go, "Oh my goodness," just in awe of what you saw. But if you want just 90-minute fun movie, some good moments, that it's a fun one. I recommend going to go see it, or just when it comes out on streaming, like check it out, because it's a good one.
yeah, I will certainly add it to my list and
It
watch it at some
was
point.
there's some
It was
funny
on
moments
my
in
I don't think it was like necessarily on my radar because I think this is one of those movies that maybe opens in the US now and doesn't reach Europe until months later. So this is one of those
here.
movies
Right.
that I'm like, okay, if I could actually see this, I would probably be interested, but
Hmm.
I'm probably not gonna be able to for a few months. So I'm just not even gonna make the effort. But
Right.
if it's available here, I will certainly check it out at some point.
There is I was I went to go see it with a few friends. 'Cause I was trying to get Janelle to go see this movie with me for the last couple of weeks. I'm looking over at her now because she knows I say her name, but uh, she we went to go see Snow White instead, which is fine. Which is fine. I saw Black Bag with my other friends. I'll try to make her watch it at some point. I'd try to. I think she would like it. We'll see. I'll keep you updated for sure. Any movies you're looking forward to in the month of April? Anything coming out next month that you
I
are?
mean,
It's on
it's
your
gotta be
must see list.
Sinners, right? Yeah,
I hate like horror, like scary movies. I never go see them ever. I'm going to go see this one. I have decided that I'm going to go see Sinners. I don't know who's going to go see it with me yet, and I need someone to go see. I'm not going to see that movie by myself. I'm not doing it. I'm a chicken. Like I'm not going to go see it. It's going to be the matinee showing, middle of the day, where it's light outside when I go to the theater and it's light outside when I'm exiting the theater. I think that's what I'm going to need for this one. But I've been intrigued. I don't know why, but this one specifically, I've been very intrigued by this one since it was announced.
I mean, I know why. It's like Michael B. Jordan with Ryan Coogler,
Well, yeah.
so
Okay. Yes.
that's why. And they have a killer cast as well, so that must count for something too. I mean, yes, it's gotta be Sinners and then everything else. Let me see, because there's one movie I'm intrigued about, but not necessarily like watching, but
Mhm.
watching the performance, which is Minecraft. So I don't think Minecraft is gonna do any business, but this is a huge move for Warner's, so
Mm.
I'm very curious to see how that performs.
I are
And
you Let me
then
ask you this. Let me ask
I
you
don't
though.
think there's anything else coming out this month that is relevant.
There's a movie that with oh my gosh, I'm blanking on like the name. Oh, Warfare, which is about it's like the
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Afghanistan
sure.
war movie. Joseph Quinn with Will Poulter. That
Yeah.
I really want to go see that one as well. Like I'm gonna see that one. But Sinners is on the top of my list, and then Warfare I'll slide in there as well. I will not. You could not pay me to go see Minecraft. Actually, you could pay me to go see Minecraft, but my point still stands. There's no way I'm watching this movie, and I
No, no, me neither.
fully
Me
know
neither.
fully know that all of my students are gonna be like, Mr. Bradshaw, you going to see Minecraft movie this weekend? And I'm gonna have to lecture them
Because
on
I mean
why
that's interesting because
not.
I have the feeling that um, the target audience for this movie, which is yeah in that 11 to 16-year-old range, I think they're gonna turn on this movie, and I think that this is the kind of stuff that they feel very protective of, and that they think that Hollywood will not understand, and therefore they're gonna, you know, critique the movie instead of seeing it.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm cheering for the chaos. That's what I'm cheering for.
Okay, that's fair.
We just need to get this movie over with so I no longer have to be at the movie theater and see Jack Black appear out of thin air and go, I'm Steve. Like, I just need that to be out of my life for forever at this
That's
point.
fair. I honestly haven't seen the trailer at the movies. I don't think.
It every time, almost every time I've been to the movies, I've seen the Minecraft trailer, like, and I'm Steve, and I just can't do it. Like, there's like I saw the Mario movie, and I love the Mario movie. There's a level of wholesomeness and there's heart and some nostalgia even for me, like going back to playing Mario as a kid, but Mario Kart, Mario, all this stuff. Minecraft, though, I've never played Minecraft or anything like that, so I have no sense of allegiance to it whatsoever. And then Jason Momoa has come a long way since his time as Cal Drogo back in the day. like, you told me Cal Drogo and this guy from Minecraft are the same guy, like doing like these are the same actors. I would have been like, what? Like he's like fully bought into the whole beer drinking, funny guy, and that's like his shtick
Yeah,
now, which back in the day I would have never thought that would have ended up being his shtick, but here we are.
yeah, no, I agree. But Keep Sorgen, I'm wondering what that means for Lobo because he's playing Lobo in Supergirl. So I'm wondering because I've been thinking for a while that he should be trying to make some, indie movie and try to get some Oscar nomination or something because I think
Mm.
he has the talent,
Mm-hmm.
but he doesn't really care for that. He wants to play the villain in Fast X or the
Mm-hmm.
lead in Minecraft.
Yeah, we'll see if he. But that's the point though. Like, not everyone needs to go chasing
Yeah,
certain things. Like, do what makes you happy. Do what makes you excited. Collect the paycheck, I guess,
yeah,
as well. It's probably a big part of it too. Well, Miguel, a lot of fun movies coming out next month as well. Sinners, I think, will be the main topic of our discussion next month. Well, actually, this might actually be a podcast next month's Deep Space Cinema where we can recap a little Star Wars movie news, possibly with Star Wars Celebration coming out. There's a chance that we could have some little nuggets to dive into in the Star Wars world, but we'll see. I still think Sinners is going to take over like priority number one for us next week
yeah,
because
possibly. If I can shut up about Last of Us.
if we might just talk about Last of Us, I'll have to. You're gonna force me to watch too. Like I'm.
I'm not gonna force you to watch anything. You can
No,
watch
you
it or
are.
not.
I know. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to be involved in the conversation. I'm gonna hate you for it because I'm gonna go to bed just with sad thoughts and sad
But
vibes and
you
show up at school
you
the
can
next
do
day.
the Sinners treatment where you can like watch it midday.
Maybe I'll see if Janelle wants to watch it with me too. Like she likes apocalyptic stuff, so maybe so. But she might not want to be sad like that. I'm like, it would just be me trying to get. I was like, I need someone to be sad with me for a little while, but we'll see what happens. All right. Until next time, take care, everyone. For Light and Life, remember, we are all the Republic.